There's something you said though that I don't think I've really explored much. You said we've been divided and conquered
Mm,
because these decision-making bodies have ceased to function, and now we have been reduced to being individuals, marketed to, and that has left us open to these communities that are out there, like very, very sophisticated teams, billions of dollars
yeah.
coming in, and it's just not a fair fight. Like they're coming in, the Walmart team is saying, "We're going to put a Walmart here." They've got all this incentive. They've got their consultants. They've got their team.
Hmm.
They're ready to rock. They're ready. They're throwing money around, and there used to be to face that a fair fight between, okay, yeah, you've got your desires, what you want to do, but we have our community's plan and what we want to do.
Hmm.
And it seems like, yeah, I'm curious how that has broken down. What used to exist that would have stopped this kind of thing from happening? What's the alternative vision, and why is it that we fall prey so easily to being divided and conquered as individuals, like you described?
These are great questions. I really like this podcast. um, th- I'll just give you my opinion on that. Uh, you have to keep going back. The archaeology comes into play here. You have to keep digging deeper to another layer and say, how did we get here? We did not get here. This did not start in the 50s. I mean, advertising in earnest started probably in the 20s or so, like the kind that we see today. This goes way back. And you've heard me write and talk about the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
Um, and it really even goes back deeper than that. But let me touch on a couple of things. First of all, the role that the church plays in modern society is vastly reduced. Vastly reduced. 150, 200 years ago, the church community, whatever the community was, whatever the denomination was, it would have had a pivotal role in bringing um, thought leaders together to discuss and weigh these kinds of decisions. And I'll give you one example of that is we still have it around today, but that'd be the old order Amish and some of these Anabaptist communities.
Yeah.
They do this still to this day. And now we look at them and say, well, for sure they're way backwards and they're not. But I would wager if you go in and test, if you could measure the health of their relationships in their families and in their communities and hold that up against a typical American neighborhood, I think you'd see a pretty vast difference, even if we don't agree that, they should have electricity or something like that. But my point is larger is they take it seriously as a faith community.
Mm.
They have a reason, they have an ethic for why they're making the decisions that they're making. That used to be the case for all of America.
Mm.
Everyone who belonged to some kind of community, even if it wasn't a faith community, they had their local villages and they made decisions together about these things. That was a natural firewall to some. Like you would never be in some corporation, Lloyd's of London or something, wouldn't have been able to just come set up shop in the Pilgrims, Plymouth colony. None of that stuff could have happened unless it was something that was deemed a good for the whole community. What happened as we industrialized, it first started to impact the families, but it also impacted the communities because it began to individualize work. It no longer work was a team effort, it was an individual effort. We needed someone to pull this lever or to, weave this loom or to whatever, dig this coal. And it began to break down that mindset that life and production and work is supposed to be a community effort. Farming, we used to be farmers. So now 98% of the nation, more than that probably, aren't involved in agriculture at all. But at one point, we were like 90% of us were farming. And farming is a very natural community type of vocation. I mean, you need help if you're farming. And it's very obvious that you depend on each other. Well, as our work changed, all of these things began to shift and change. And I think that's where it just was one long uh, train from becoming a producer society to a consumer society, coming from a community-based sufficiency where you had to basically raise and produce everything you needed within a community, a village of people, to becoming, I'm just going to order it on Amazon and a drone's going to drop it off, like in 24 hours. That is one long continuous line.
Yeah.
And I think it didn't happen with one thing, but I think it was a series of a million decisions in that direction.